Welcome back to part 2 of exploring the underbelly of Ravenfield. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you check out the first video as I won't really be recapping much. To pick up where we left off, I finished looking at all the maps from the sub 100 view pool and came to the conclusion that there were no hidden gems. This means I needed to widen my search, and I felt the next natural step up was to switch gears from view count to subscription count, starting with the 100 and below subscriber pool, which after filtering out the previously seen maps is a nice chunk of 3,000 maps. So yet again, my work is cut out for me. Being the lazy guy that I am, I try to cheat the system and use math. I thought, what if I looked at maps based on subscriber to view ratio? And well, you get an interesting spread. 3 maps heavily stood out with a high ratio: Tank War, Snake Island, and Island 51, of which I thought weren't anything special. The 2 island maps were certainly a step up from the average map in the last video, but they didn't really satisfy my requirement for a hidden gem. They felt like your average map. Not great, not terrible, and to be fair, they quite literally are. 81 subscribers is the medium number of subs for a map mod, and that's kind of where all these maps hover around. I think I enjoyed the tank map the most, simply because of how absurd it was. And despite the lag, it was kind of fun. I quickly realized that using this ratio wasn't exactly helpful for identifying hidden gems. However, this graph has another purpose. It does an amazing job at finding hidden rocks. At the opposite end, we have maps that people looked at and actively chose not to play or straight up unsubscribe. Notably, this map with 2,700 views and only 86 subscribers, titled "Your GPU Will Now Bleed." I read the comments and I was genuinely a little scared to play this map, but I did it anyways. For science. I mean, this map seems normal enough. What could possibly— holy shit! In all seriousness, this map is just super random and not really playable, but that's fine. I don't think it was meant to be taken seriously anyways, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. Then we have the map Hills, which arguably has the worst stats possible, as the only map above 100 views and yet also have 0 subscribers. Which, I'll be honest, it probably doesn't deserve, since the map isn't that bad. There's some other odd maps in the hidden rocks part of the graph, which I will get to later. Back to the matter at hand, which is now manually sifting through maps, and well, what are these maps like? Thankfully, a little bit better, however, not by much. There are 4 categories that would roughly describe these maps. Category 1 is similar to the sub 100 view group, extremely simple, quickly made, and frankly, boring. While these types of maps are less common, they're still prevalent enough. These images are prime examples, similar to the ones I explored in the last video, so I mostly ignore them. Category 2 is like an evolved form, a level where maps feel more coherent with obvious time and effort invested. These maps are clearly a step up from the lower tiered maps, yet they don't quite stand out in a crowd. They look good, even great compared to lower tier maps, but they pale next to well-known established ones. Take Oil Rig Attack, for example. It's a solid map. The in-game map editor assets are well used, and it's fun to play. But when compared to standout maps, Oil Rig Attacks falls quite short. Why play Oil Rig Attack when pseudonames Offshore Scuffle exists? Personally, I find Offshore Scuffle has better visuals, tighter close quarters combat, and more engaging vehicle warfare. So while I do appreciate Oil Rig Attack for what it is, I don't see a strong reason to pick it over more polished options. This is Category 2, a nebulous middle ground of second and third string maps, which is not what you're looking for when it comes to trying to find a hidden gem. Category 3 is similar to Category 2 in that these maps often show clear time and effort, but the difference? Creativity, but with, let's say, a bit of an odd execution. Category 2 maps tend to be fairly standard, often emulating basic themes such as a town, a forest, or an ocean. Category 3 though? It's off in another realm, full of completely custom themes and unique ideas. Unfortunately, they don't always end up looking or playing the best. These maps also tend to have more custom thumbnails and designs, but they often are a bit crude and rough around the edges. In Category 4, straight up shitposting. I've already decided to skip Category 1, so here's a quick speedrun of what you can find in Category 2 and 3. I spent hours going through these maps, and here's what piqued my interest. Synthwave, 981 views, 105 subscribers. This map has 0 application, but I thought it was pretty cool. After all, who doesn't love Synthwave / Vaporwave vibe? Slap some reshade onto this and you've got a pretty sick background. Showtime, 415 views, 51 subs. I enjoyed this one. It was a fun change of scenery compared to your typical CQB map. It's pretty simple overall, but I respect the idea and effort, especially with the creative use of in-game map editor scaling of the buildings to look like props. Snail Hill, 959 views, 73 subscribers. Clearly broken, but was so bizarre I had to include it. I'm sure at one point this map had a working floor, but for now it just makes me actively uncomfortable. Interesting idea nonetheless. Low Poly Adventure. This is one of the better looking maps in terms of asset use, but it's proof that aesthetic isn't everything. Mainly, confusing collision boxes. Many objects on this map look like they would have been perfect cover, but really can be shot and walked right through. As a whole map, it's alright, but can be frustrating to play for this reason. Umino Land, 204 visitors, 50 subs. This is a fantastic example of a Category 2 map, a nondescript, large-scale island town that makes good use of the map editor and is decent to play. I like this map a lot and felt it wasn't trying too hard, and I thought it had a nice layout. A lot of large maps suffer from being too large and spread out, but this one had a good balance and was great for larger block counts. Very Dizzy. This is another odd one, but surprisingly, kind of fun. It has a weird maze-like map with some interesting design choices, such as this extremely low poly castle, blimp, and for some reason the bot material PNG. The map isn't too serious, but was at least interesting to play, with literally every turn being a tight corner and the chance of immediately seeing an enemy. Construction Site, 440 visitors, 65 subs. This map is a great example of a good idea with a less than stellar execution. It's a cool map that uses a very well made construction site for houses, but it's really all the map has to offer. The house detail does not look great when the rest of the map has little to offer. On top of that, the sheer count of assets for each house makes the map tough to play for weaker setups. Two Mountains, 379 views, 66 subscribers. Another large scale map that has a lot going on, though I will say I think it does that pretty well. It ain't the prettiest, but it gives you a lot of options on how you want to play the map, whether it be vehicles, sniping, or holding sites. The map's odd but standout feature is having ramps all around, and is certainly different than your average map, and overall, this map surprised me. Allies 01. This is an example of a Category 3 map, unique but just so weirdly executed. The building's designs are creatively made, but they come across as out of place and too large, and with far flags that sort of default to an impossible take since the area is so open. Alright, next up is... I tried, guys. I really did. I simply cannot take these maps anymore. I sifted through each map. I've tried my hardest to find a hidden gem, but there's just nothing. Just a quiet, silent purgatory. No spark or shimmer. Just a constant hum of mediocrity. Each map blends into the next, and then I start to ask myself why. Why am I digging here when there's so many great mods already? My breaking point was Penn Island version 1.5. I came across it and thought maybe this is worth trying out, even though I pretty much knew exactly what I was getting into. This is the painful part, how it looks in the search menu. It's surrounded by Black Rock, which is an awesome map. Then you have Castle Island, aka a certified hood classic. Then the beloved OG Island, a Nor Potatoes map, and even Wii Sports Resort Island. And yet I'm sitting here for hours clicking the worst option on the screen. So you know what? I'm done. Screw the script. I'm skipping to Category 4 because it's gotten to a point where at least those maps were so weird I actually looked forward to seeing what the hell was in the map. So, Category 4. We have Among Us maps, like more than I expected. Oh wait, that's not... God, I need to go outside. We also have man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. Like this, or this, or this, or genuinely whatever the hell this is. You also have literal obby maps, which, you know what? I can't even be a hater on this. This was actually kind of fun. I honestly kind of recommend playing these. It's so silly that if you're bored enough, why not? Then you have actual memes, such as the Moai Island Heads, Sub 2 Blank Map, Empire Bar from Custom Order Made 3D2, which upon further investigation is exactly what you'd expect, the murder of Minecraft Steve, including a hidden Herobrine figure, and of course, a classy 9/11 map. And yeah, that's what the sub 100 map pool has to offer. All 3,000 maps, the actual bottom half of the map pool. This was my breaking point. I don't think a hidden gem exists. I believe the Steam Workshop does an effective job at weeding out the good and the bad. I can move up to more, but really, what would that accomplish? Because, well, the next pool of maps I jump to would be the sub 250 subscriber pool. But at that point, is it really a hidden gem? At 250 subs, this puts a map in the 31st percentile, beating out roughly 70% of other maps. Can that really be classified as a hidden gem? I don't really know. Is this a cop-out? Perhaps. But as it stands, I've lost my sanity towards playing these maps, and I've come to the conclusion that a majority of these maps in this game aren't great, and I now feel much more appreciative the next time I come across a good map in the workshop. I would say that around the 250 sub mark is when maps unironically started to get good and entered the underrated category, but as for the true Underbelly Ravenfield in the spirit of this video, there unfortunately was not as much as I had hoped. Genuinely, if there was a map I missed, let me know. This was a long and drawn out process, and I'm done. I'm just done. I think at some point I'll make an underrated maps video where I cover some of the good maps I did find that aren't exactly popular, but also not unknown. But that is for another time. Is this the greatest ending to a video? No. I'm just straight up done with this topic. Until next time, peace.